and I went ahead and started the recording, and I'm recording so that this information will be available to parents who are unable to make it but may still want answers to some of these same questions. So again, thank you so much for being here with us this evening, and I'm going to go ahead and get started and share my screen with you. What you hear in the background, if you hear kids screaming, my children are outside playing in the dark with their dad, and they are having the best time. So those are kids running around playing outside that you hear sounding like bloody murder. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started. And again, this is just our opportunity to talk. Miss Sharon Lassiter is going to be co-hosting with me this evening, and Miss Lassiter is our testing coordinator. Also, I've invited the teachers. I see Miss Massey is here. Hello, Miss Massey. And there may be other teachers on that are just here for support and to help with any questions. Okay, so for tonight's agenda, these are the questions, right? I didn't want to put bullet points because they're questions. So we're going to talk through the process for check-in, the contents of the PPE bag and why we even took steps to do that, what happens to students once they're in the classroom, the testing details, so like actually about the test, how we're going to manage lunch and restroom breaks, and the dismissal plan. So we have a lot of ground to cover in a little bit of time. I also want to urge you, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. I'm going to ask Ms. Lassiter to monitor the chat for me so that I can answer your questions at the end. I don't want to miss any questions that you may have. Okay. So I shared this in the email just the other day. I think it was Monday. All the days are running together now. But it's very methodical, right? So essentially your student's gonna get out of your car or off of the bus. We'll have two teachers there to greet them, Ms. Gantois and Ms. King, and they're gonna have posters with names on them. So let me just tell you what's so interesting about this. It's like, this is their first day of school, kind of, sort of, and it's for a standardized test. I can't really think of a way, a worse way maybe even, for students to meet each other for the first time, but you know, those are the cards that we've been dealt. So some of them, their faces we don't know, and many of them, many of our faces they don't know. So everybody's going to be standing there with signage and name badges. The staff will have name badges. Your students received one card at the beginning of the year. If they have the one card, we would like for you to have them to wear their one card as well, so that we can say, okay, this is X person, and we're able to identify them. And so the students, when they get out of the car, they're going to see these two teachers, Mrs. Gantois and Ms. King, to find out which building to enter. Our building, our school building, is actually two buildings at A&T that are connected. So we will have the buildings who are testing in Price Hall follow one route, and the students who are testing in Smith Hall to follow another route. So those teachers will say, X student, you're gonna walk along the sidewalk to meet Miss Beatty, or you're gonna go right behind me to meet Dr. Williams to get your temperature checked. So we're going to direct students directly from the car, and then they're going to go one way or the other to enter the Price Hall entrance or the Smith Hall entrance. And then they will get to the next station, which will be myself and Miss Beatty, who is our data manager treasurer. We're going to be taking temperatures there. There will be a table set up, and all this will happen at this table. We're going to check the temperature and record it. Then there will be breakfast for every student from Guilford County Schools. I'm sorry, Mr. Wall is entering. Breakfast for every student from Guilford County Schools. They will pick up breakfast there, and then they're going to receive the PPE bag. So I'm going to be like, hey, welcome. Let me take your temperature. Boom. All right, now that I've done that, you're good to go. I'm going to record it right here. Here's your breakfast. Here's your PPE bag. Please pick up both items and enter Smith Hall behind me. So Miss Beatty will do the same thing. So they'll move forward to the appropriate building entrance, Smith or Price Hall. Inside the building, there will be another teacher stationed there. And it will be Miss Shaw, who will be in Smith Hall, and Miss McLean will be in Price Hall. That was selected on purpose because students have had Miss Shaw, and Miss McLean is our, technology person, so many of the students have engaged with her as well. So they're going to say, all right, thank you so much, welcome, we're so happy to see you. You're testing in Smith 1009. And then there will be another person standing at that door. So they'll say, walk down the hallway right here, and you're going to see Mrs. Noel at Smith 1009. And then Mrs. Noel is going to intercept the students, welcome them again, and then ask them to go into the assigned classroom. So all of this greeting and passing along is to make sure everybody gets in the classroom when they're assigned, but also because they've never been to school with us. So they don't know where Mr. Bond's classroom is or Miss King's classroom is. So we want to make sure that we have enough supports in place that students aren't getting confused or lost, and that it's very clear who's supposed to go where when. They're going to enter that classroom, sanitize their hands, and wait for directions from that point to go to the bathroom to prepare for testing. So that's a lot of directions, but essentially it's going to move pretty smoothly. It's just going to be station 1, station 2, station 3, station 4. Okay, so the next thing is they're going to pick up these PPE bags from the temperature checking table where I will be and where Miss Beatty will be. In the bag, there are 3 pairs of disposable gloves, 5 cloth masks, a Ziploc bag for cellular phone storage during the test, 1 permanent marker to label the cellular phone bag and the bag holding the contents, 6 pencils, 4 antibacterial hand wipes, and 1 individual set of tissues. So essentially the reason we are handing out this bag is so that there is a very little passing back and forth of materials. I know that we all want to be safe, and that we all want to minimize the exposures to people and things as much as possible. So by giving them this 1 bag for the week, what they're going to do is they're going to write their name on the bag, and at the end of each day, before they leave the room they're in, they're going to give that bag to the classroom teacher and or test administrator. The reason for that is because we have cohorted our students. So Ms. Lasser did a very great, excellent job of cohorting the students. So those students are going to the same classroom every day with the same group of students every day, even though they're being given different tests. And over the course of the week, the number of students who are coming in for tests will get smaller. It's going to decrease because we only have, I think, 29 students who are taking the project management assessment, but they will still be in the same class with maybe 5 students that were in there with them on Monday when everybody took biology, and there were 10 students in there. No classroom has more than 12 students in it. That's 1 classroom. It's our largest classroom, which is Mr. Vaughn's computer lab. The other classrooms have 10 or fewer students. So when they get that bag and they put that marker is theirs, we don't want it back. They're gonna write their name on it. Same thing with the phone. We have to collect phones and electronic devices as a testing security effort. So they're gonna use that same marker to write it on the phone. That's the only thing we will collect, but it will be like in a bucket. They'll just drop it in the bucket when it's time for testing and then pick it up when it's time to take it out. The gloves are for their own comfort. Right? So if they don't feel comfortable reaching in to get their cell phone that's in the Ziploc bag from the bucket, they have those gloves there to get it themselves. Or if they don't feel comfortable, if they want to take the testing gloves, they can take the testing gloves. If they need more gloves, we have more gloves. But we just wanted to make sure we're providing that personal protective equipment that would make people feel secure. Now, your student can wear their own mask. We encourage them to wear their own mask, but it has to be a mask that covers the nose and the mouth. Guilford County Schools is not supporting the neck gaiter style mask. So if they come to school and they have their own mask, that's fine, but we are providing cloth masks for all of our students anyway. So this is just going to be their mask. Obviously, that would be the one thing they would take home with them if they need the mask for the following day. And if they get off the bus or out of the car and they don't have a mask, when they get to that temperature check table, I'm going to say to them, there's some mask in this bag for you. I would like for you to go ahead, take the mask out and put it on your face, because you can't enter A&T buildings without that proper face covering. The antibacterial hand wipes, again, they're disposable and they're for your students to use at their own discretion if they feel like they need to wipe themselves off. And then the set of tissues is because hopefully nobody's coming with the sniffles, but we don't want to be walking around with a box of Kleenex. So everybody has their own. I said, like, if it gets to the point where we're hearing too many sniffles and too many tissues opening, then we're going to need to have another conversation about what's happening in that classroom, because we don't want any signs or symptoms of any sickness at all. So that's what those tissues are for, and there'll obviously be a trash can there. So if they have to use the trash can, the proctor will be attuned to that and will take the trash can to them when they're done using the tissue. So that's what's in the bag. We also pack a different box for teachers, and they have extra of all of this, including pencils. So if your student is taking Math 3 and they need 5 pencils for the Math 3 exam, the teachers have more of that. The teachers will have hand sanitizer. The teachers will have more gloves. So in terms of the PPE, we got that covered, and we just wanted to let you know that we tried to be very strategic in making sure people feel comfortable. They feel like they have access to protective equipment so that they're not exposed or feeling exposed during the test or while they're in the building. So that's what these bags are for. Okay, so what happens once they're in the classroom? So this is like a whole list of protocols and steps too, but I think it's absolutely necessary. So the students are going to be greeted by a test administrator for the room and given hand sanitizer. So they'll walk in, welcome, squirt, they'll sanitize their hands. And then they will be directed to an assigned desk. So again, students are cohorted. All the students are in the same classroom with the same group for all 3 days at the same desk. The desks are a minimum of 6 feet apart, and the sign that you see here that says "Thank you for social distancing" is the sign that is either on the desk your student is sitting at. Like if they're sitting at a long table, there will be a section blocked off so that nobody else sits at the table with them, or on the floor to divide the individual desk. Students should go to the desk and settle, because you're going to be sanitizing your hands, you're going to have a breakfast bag, you're going to have a PPE bag, you'll probably have a coat. So you just go to the desk and settle. During that time, they can eat breakfast, place their own electronic device in the bag and write your name in the larger PPE bag, get pencils and other materials prepared for testing. So sit down and get your stuff together. Once all students are in place, so that means once all students who are in that assigned classroom are in the classroom, we have teachers serving as bathroom monitors for testing. They're going to come and get the class, just kind of like elementary school, if you will, and walk into the bathroom for testing. So this will be socially distanced. We're marking the floor where students are going to stand as they wait to enter the bathroom. A&T has limited bathroom access. So in some bathrooms in their building, 2 people can be in it at the time, and in other bathrooms, 1 person can be in at the time. So we're going to take the time to make sure everyone has had an opportunity to go to the bathroom and to also wash their hands before testing. So once that happens and everybody's back in line and ready to go back to the classroom, the bathroom monitor is going to return the students to the assigned classroom, and the teacher will begin to read directions to prepare for the test administration. So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to ask Ms. Lassiter to talk about the testing details. I want to make sure you're clear about what test is when, how long it's going to take, and the approximate end time. So Ms. Lassiter.
Good evening, everyone. You all received the testing schedule last week and again this week, I believe, but we just want to make sure everyone's clear on the expectations for arrival, and then for those of you who may be picking your child up at the end of testing, what the approximate end time is. So Monday for biology, well, for every day, we need students here by 10:20. So we ask that you have your student to arrive between 10 and 10:20 if you're dropping them off. And we will have a section divided for where the buses will be for students who have to ride the bus versus where car riders will be dropped off, to cut down on some congestion. But we want all students here by 10:20 so that we can have time to go through all of the processes that Dr. Williams described, so that we can begin testing no later than 11 o'clock. So on Monday, with that being said, the estimated time for biology, including the extended time that the students are allowed, is 3 hours. So we anticipate that that test will end at 2 o'clock. It may end earlier, it may end later, but we wanted to give you an approximate time of 2 o'clock. On Tuesday, the test is Math 3, and that test is a little longer, plus the students have to do an extra activity that they would normally have completed during in-person learning, and that's the gridded response activity. So that's an activity they have to have time to do before they actually take their test. And so that test is scheduled to last up to 4 hours with the extended testing time that is allotted for those students who need that time. And we're anticipating the gridded response activity wouldn't take longer than 30 minutes. So the approximate end time for Math 3 on Tuesday will be 3:30. And then on Wednesday, honors project management, that test is a 2-hour test. Students do not get any extra time. It's just a straight 2 hours. So we anticipate that students will be done with that test by 1 o'clock. As Dr. Williams said, we have assigned students to testing cohorts, and we will be identifying students with their GCS student IDs, as well as faculty will have on their IDs or name tags, so that students will know our names. We will be able to put names with faces with the students as well.
I wanted to make a few comments here. I saw a question in the chat about a student not having an ID. They're new to GCS. That's fine. We just need to identify the student, by them telling us what their name is. And Ms. McLean has typically been the one to organize a student ID, so that's something that we will try to get the details for, so that in January when we return to school, that student does have an ID. The other thing is, I don't know if you are fully aware, but our school start time has been changed for this school year. Typically we start school at 9:30. This year it's been pushed back to a start time of 10:30, I think. And that's for the tiered busing system to allow for social distancing on the bus. So even when we return in January, the student arrival time will remain 10:20, and our dismissal time, our official dismissal time, is 4:50. I want to say here that if your student rides the bus for testing, they will be at school until 4:50. We are sharing these approximate end times because I've had, excuse me, some questions about being able to pick up students at the end of the test time. So please note the approximate end time. We will allow you to check out your student at the end of the test. So just make note of those, because it may drive your schedule in terms of when you want to come to the school to pick up your student at the conclusion of testing on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday.
So for lunch and restroom breaks, as it relates to lunch, all students, the child nutrition department will be delivering lunch for all students. So we will deliver lunch to the students in their classrooms, and every student will receive a lunch. Even if they don't eat it there, we ask them to take it home. Maybe they will want to eat it later, especially if they're getting picked up early. We do have hand washing protocols for lunch. The following rooms have sinks in their classrooms: Smith Hall 1009, and then Price Hall 101 and 103. So students in those three classes will be washing their hands in the classroom, and then the students who will be taking their test in Smith Hall 1007 and Price Hall 101A, those students will wash their hands in the restroom. And so as it relates to the restroom, prior to testing, test proctors and bathroom monitors will be responsible for escorting the students to the restroom. In Smith Hall, 2 students are allowed in that restroom at one time, and then Price Hall, 1 student is allowed in the restroom at a time. So the bathroom monitor and the test proctor will coordinate that. During and after the testing, teachers will only dismiss 1 student at a time to go to the restroom. And Mrs. Guines-Hoyes and Ms. King, who are on hall duty there, they will be the bathroom monitors. They will monitor the students' transition to and from the restroom, observing the 6 feet physical distancing and restroom occupancy protocol. Can students bring lunch from home? Yes, students are allowed to bring lunch from home. It doesn't have to be in a brown bag. It could just, in their normal lunch bag, but they are allowed to bring lunch from home, and they will, put that under their seat in their classroom. So the dismissal plan, we will have a drive-through form of dismissal. When you come to pick up your student, you to drive up in front of Smith Hall, and Ms. Beatty, our data manager treasurer, and Mrs. Noel, our school counselor, will go to the car, get the child's name, and then they will radio the appropriate teacher to dismiss the student. And then once again, Mrs. Guines-Hoyes and Ms. King will be on hall duty to monitor the student's transition out of the building, once again making sure that students are remaining 6 feet apart if more than 1 student is called for at a time. Yes, all students will have a lunch provided by the GCS Nutrition, Child Nutrition Department.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was trying to monitor the chat and all that good stuff. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Lassiter. So I wanna use this as my point of communication with you. Parents, please join this Remind. I have it in four different ways you can join. You can click on the QR code, you can go to the URL, or you can use step A or B under the get information for STEM Early College right on your phone, because I will use this Remind to communicate with you when testing is over. I'll use this to communicate with you when testing starts, to let you know we're in this, we're doing great, everything is okay. I don't want to blow you up, and I know your students in high school, but I also know you want the comfort of knowing what's going on. So I'm going to leave this up for a moment, and I want you all to join it. And if there are parents here who are not, that would want this information, I want to ask you to take a screenshot of it. This will go on our school website, but I think it's very, very important that we have this point of contact. I have all the students in the school on a Remind, and have your student join it too, you and the student. But for freshmen, we haven't been together, so I haven't done that this year with our group of freshmen, but I think this is very, very important. Thank you, Ms. Lassiter, for answering that question in the chat. So again, I'm going to leave this here for just a moment so you are able to get the Remind information for next week. And as I said, I'll send you a reminder when we start. I'll send you a reminder when we're done. And that'll be your cue if you want to pick up your student to go ahead and get on your way. Again, our school day ends at 4:50. It's unlikely that testing will go on until 4:50. So somewhere in that 2 to 3:30 time range, you'll be hearing from me that testing is complete. I think that's all I have. Does anybody need more time for this? Nope. Okay, wonderful. I think that's my last slide. Now, this is an opportunity I'm going to stop sharing here. I saw that Mr. Wall joined us. If any of the teachers have anything that they want to say or specifically address with testing.
I would like to say that all the 9th graders that are in the English 1 have completed their tests, and I will have the scores to them tomorrow.
Thank you. So yes, I will send out the COVID questionnaire via email for you to complete. It is going to ask you to note your student's temperature, if they've been exposed to anyone who's had COVID, if they've been tested for COVID lately, or if they have any symptoms. And if you check yes to any of those boxes, they're not going to be able to come in for testing. That is a good question. Yes, I will email that out. And I'll also send like, yeah, it needs to be the GCS one. I'll send that out. The students are going to eat lunch after the test. So there's a long time. I think you should eat breakfast at home and then eat breakfast at school, because the tests are 3 and 4 hours long and you won't be able to eat until the test is complete. And then you'll get lunch. Other questions? These are all really great questions. I hope I've been able to answer some of your questions and help you to feel a little bit more at ease. They can leave before lunch as long as testing is over. Yes. Are we allowed to drink water during the test? We are providing water bottles for everyone, but Ms. Lassiter, are they allowed to actually drink water during the test? We can't hear you.
Only if they have approved accommodations to do that.
Right. But we will have water bottles in the classroom for before and after the test. Yes. Everyone has to finish the test before the testing time is over. Good questions, everyone. And, you know, I can't say it enough that this situation is not ideal for anyone, particularly for a first meeting face-to-face, everybody. We're excited to see you, but we understand the anxiety that is associated with this situation, and we're sensitive to your various needs and questions and thoughts about it. And so, you know, I have had several contacts with many parents this week. I appreciate your questions because they help me to think of things. As I said in one of my emails, I have a child in the 1st grade, and every day I'm on pins and needles from the time he goes to school until he comes home. And when he comes home, I cheer every day as if he wasn't coming home. So because I'm crazy, like I'm a crazy mother like that. And so, you know, I felt like tonight was necessary for us to build some trust, for you to know how we're handling things and who's handling what, and for you to get your questions answered. I see a question about the buses. Buses will depart at 4:50. That is the end of our school day, our new school end time. I see Ms. Lassiter's responding to a question about a mask. Yes, your student can wear their own mask to school, but it has to meet the standard, and it has to be a mask that covers both the nose and the mouth. And it cannot be a neck gaiter. Those are not endorsed by CDC or Guilford County Schools. So again, a cloth or paper mask, and by paper I mean like a surgical mask that covers the nose and the mouth. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for coming. Other questions? We don't want to hold you all evening, but we just want to make sure we take time to make sure it's good, everybody feels good. As questions come up, please don't hesitate to ask. We are ready to answer them. And again, when you ask questions, it helps me to think of things. Mrs. Lassiter and I are in constant communication. We've walked the building every day this week. The custodial staff at A&T will be on site. They will be cleaning before and after the test and touch points throughout the test. They're gonna clean all touch surfaces and including desk, doorknobs, light switches, and fog every classroom with disinfectant every day. So the testing site will be clean. How many breaks during the test? Ms. Lassiter, that's a you question. I think 2. Is that right?
There are 2 breaks, and then if there are students who need to go into extended time, like there's just like a little bit break there for transition.
Thank you, Ms. Lassiter.
Dr.
Ms.
Williams,
Lassiter,
I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead.
A parent asked if you could go back to the remind screen. I think they need to get that information.
Sure. There you go. And I'm just gonna say this, these are the best teachers. They're gonna take the best care. They're prepared for this. We have a reentry team that has been meeting every week for almost 5 weeks now to develop protocols and procedures. As I was saying before, Ms. Lassiter and I have walked this every day. I mean, we did a full walkthrough yesterday from the sidewalk to the classroom. So it'll be very methodical. I hope comfortable, but we're gonna make sure that all the protocol and procedures are followed.
And I did want to add, I just checked in my testing manual just to be accurate, and there are 3 breaks. So it's 3 breaks and the potential for a 4th for students who need extended time.
Uh-oh. Okay. And if that is it, I bid you farewell this evening. I will send several more announcements and details for you just to make sure we're all on the same page, and that everything is good to go for Monday. We look forward to seeing you masked up and honoring the 3 W's: wear, wait, and wash. Okay, I appreciate everyone. Thank you so much, and you all have a wonderful evening, and I will be making announcements again tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.